Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Ahsoka Part 5, Shadow Warrior. Absolutely love this episode. Also, Shadow Warrior is the name of a really funny video game series. I highly recommend you guys check it out. I think the first 3 games at this point are actually kind of cheap to get on Steam. So just saying, they're really funny. The first one, the dude actually is singing The Touch. Stan Bush is The Touch from the Transformers movie. So for the nerds out there, that's the type of like silliness you'll get from that. Plus you kill a bunch of demons and it's a fun game. So that popped up. They titled the episode that, so I was almost obligated to randomly be like, video game. That's what I have to do. Also, this Darksaber right here. This thing I absolutely love. It's insanely loud, so I'm gonna hold it like way over here. But this thing I love. It is my favorite weapon in all of Star Wars. When that popped up in live action, I cried. And that was the Mandalorian Season 1 post-credit sequence. And I legit was like, holy crap. Like, my eyes were watering up. I can buy expensive merch because once it's live action, you know Disney's on top of it. Their version sucked, which is why I got this amazing NeoPixel version, which it was crazy. Like, all they had to do was just put lightning in it. And I don't know, they screwed up, that's on them. Point is, when it became live action, that was a moment where I was like, holy crap, this is going into my favorite thing in Star Wars, which is Mandalorian stuff. So I was over the moon. Season 2 happened, loved it. Fortunately for me, I love Season 3. I don't know how they got on the island. I don't know why they stayed there when that bird kept taking all the kids. The 2 things that are very dumb, or I shouldn't say island. I don't know how they got on that whole planet. The whole bird episode, the whole point was like, yeah, we've never had ships to chase the bird down. And I was like, how are they on this planet then? It's a mystery, but I still love Season 3. I just have to say it. I love Mando Season 3. So I'm on a high right now because I love Mando Season 3. I was super hyped about Ahsoka because I love Ahsoka, and it was very clear from her episode in Mando Season 2 that it was going to be very samurai based, and I was like 100% like, yes, please. I mean, that's why I have that displayed up there. Also, this is a 420 review, which, you know, it says it in the title, but once again, the samurai aesthetic, we're keeping up the Ghost of Tsushima. So I've been on a very decent high when it comes to Ahsoka. I've loved all the scenes that people consider slow. For me, when it gets to a slow moment and they're going through it, I'm like, well, to me, that feels like the samurai side of Star Wars coming in. So I like it more, especially like the training. I love the training sequence. Some people said that went on a little too long. I absolutely love that because it was a samurai training sequence. So I was like over the moon about that opening. But I've been on a high with this whole series. The last episode was absolutely insane. And then this episode comes out and we have so many things. I think the ending, it's a great moment, but the ending is not as impressive as not even just what happens in the beginning, but just what they decided to represent for like the first time ever in live action. It was more impressive than even at the end, which was giant Star Wars space whales naturally traveling through the galaxy, and they straight up did it. Like, they traveled with the Purgle to the next galaxy, which is the rest of the series in another galaxy. They have to come back at least in the like halfway mark of the season finale, because that means we don't get Zeb, and they can't do that to us. So they have to come back because we have to see Zeb. So we don't have to worry about them being over there forever. They'll find a way back because I better see Zeb. Just saying, we need Zeb. This would have been a great episode for him too. That was like something I thought about. I was like, oh, everyone kind of hoped in the last episode that he might show up as well, but this actually would have been like the perfect one because they were all just on the planet. It was actually like the perfect episode to just have Zeb there, you know, to kind of bounce off the other characters. But I'm sure we'll have a good moment with Zeb. You know, I would assume towards the end they have to, you know, get everybody together, especially with Ezra coming back. But man, I love this episode. This was so good. Like the Purgle at the end, going into hyperspace, just the shot of that. Like, there's so many shots in this that are just really good where I'm like, if they re-release this in theaters, another super limited deal, I would love to see it in theaters because there are so many shots in this where I was like, that's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful shot. So, and I always love that, you know, in Star Wars especially. But the ending shot of them going into hyperspace, and it's from the mouth of this thing, and it's just like a thin line instead of like the big sort of like the stars moving over a cockpit like we normally see. And it was like, wow, he got his own version of like a hyperspace jump, and we saw it, you know, naturally. So that was crazy. That was a crazy way to end it. And literally the rest of the series is going to show us a new galaxy in Star Wars. That's just insane to think of. It's like possibilities are limitless. But the beginning of this episode where we see not only live action Anakin Skywalker with a blue lightsaber, we get dark Anakin with a red lightsaber, which is like a nerdy mod that has been happening for over a decade now. There are video games where they do that stuff where it's like, here's dark side Anakin, and then you give him a red lightsaber because it's like, oh, that's that ultimate transition between the two versions of that man. People have been doing that for years, and it has officially been done in live action. It's like one of the most minute nerd things that has been there since that movie came out, and it's like Dave Filoni put that in live action. So for those people that just have that moment, I know there are people that have that moment. It's not mine. I thought it was super cool, but I know there are people that like were killing to have a moment like that where they see darkside Anakin with an actual red lightsaber in live action. So I know Dave Filoni did something for quite a few people just for that one scene alone. And then on top of that, we have young Ahsoka with one green lightsaber, which was so crazy. Anakin in his Clone Wars armor, which for the first time I ever realized was meant to obviously look like Darth Vader's like chest piece there. I just never caught that before when it was in the cartoon, even though it was technically 3D, not the same type of 3D. It's not live action 3D. So there were some things I finally noticed for the first time. And I was like, huh, that very obvious thing is now obvious to me as well. We got that. Rex was in the background of the first one too. And so we got old school Rex, and we got the more modern version, or a Clone Wars finale version of Rex. So that was insane. And he spoke. Like, it wasn't just like him in the background twice. He was in the background for the classic version with the pauldron on, and then when it was like the more modern style that we're more used to after he became the character that we know now, we got him talking, and it was a close-up. You could literally see the welds on the mask, and I was like, he showed both versions, and we got to hear him speak as they charge into the Siege of Mandalore, which sadly was not accompanied by a random appearance by Darth Maul. I was really hoping for it. I was also hoping for Obi-Wan, because I'm not gonna lie, they skipped over Ahsoka having two green lightsabers. They were technically like green and yellow, which always bugged me, and then I think eventually they just made them two straight up green ones. And she's technically had like a couple of costumes as she's aged up through the show. But you go beginning of the series, the first time she got like the double lightsabers, or maybe when they officially made them green, because I think when she started using two, she still had like pretty much the same original costume. But just do that, two green lightsabers and then the two blue ones at the end, because I was like, there's one extra scene, and right in that second sequence we could have had Obi-Wan. I was really hoping. I was like, man, Obi-Wan with the clone. I always thought his was cooler because he had like the actual like shoulder pieces and stuff. So I was really hoping for that one, but sadly we didn't get to see that. Sadly, we did not get my favorite character, Darth Maul. But it was still cool that it was even referenced. We did get a Maul DeLorean, and I will say that because I gasped audibly when that happened. So I'm very, I think that might be one of my moments where like people who want dark side Anakin with red lightsaber, I was just like, man, it would be cool to see a Maul DeLorean in like live action. That would be pretty sick. And we kind of got that with Mando season 3. A lot of people mentioned like, oh, he's got like the horns and it's a Mando thing. And it was like, oh, but these are the actual guys. So we got a Mandalorian. Plus, towards the end of that whole sequence, aside from seeing once again Ahsoka live action from the end of Clone Wars, we also got to see, I think they only did it once, but there may have been 2 troopers that had it, but we got to see her specific, like her group, I forgot the number of like the regiment or whatever, but they all painted their masks in honor of her when they went on that mission to, because that was like her first time coming back to the clones in like a super long time, because she had left the Jedi Order and kind of the whole battle from that side of the fence. So that's what they did to honor her, and they had that in live action. So once again, one of those random things where it's like, oh, there it is, like there you go. So that was super cool. And it's just like, man, that the Siege of Mandalore, which for people who might be coming from Mando, is like, holy crap, like that's the thing that was referenced. She was there. Kind of gives a lot of credence to her character for everyone, kind of like the people who don't really know Rebels too well. This, I would say, kind of gives credence for people, I guess, who've been following Mando at the very least, who Ahsoka really is, where it's like, oh, she was at the Siege of Mandalore. Like, that's a whole thing from that other entire show. That's the thing they talk about as to why they lost their entire planet. And it was like, oh, she was there during that, fighting in a war. And it's like, okay, that's got to give you a couple points in some way for anyone who didn't already know it. But I was like, it's super cool that we got to see those versions of the characters, seeing the flashbacks. We got Rex. They put some respect on his name, because for me personally, Clone Wars is Ahsoka and Rex, because Anakin and Obi-Wan are from the movies. Like, they're in their own atmosphere of things. But I think Clone Wars, obviously it includes everyone, but that's where they were born. Ahsoka and Rex were born in Clone Wars. Like that's just how it is. So it's like when I think Clone Wars, those are the characters I think of, not Anakin and Obi-Wan, because I think Obi-Wan, I go original series. When obviously when I hear Anakin, I have to, I have to go with the prequels, because even though they say it in the first movie, it's like that's Darth Vader. And I don't think they even say Anakin after the first movie anyway. They probably do, because when they have the conversation, like, you didn't tell me it was my dad. I was like, certain point of view. Horrible justification, but hey, he did what he did. Speaking of the classic movies, some of the lines they threw in, the Return of the Jedi thing, where Anakin was, where Ahsoka was like, I won't fight you, and Anakin was like, I've heard that before. I was Return of the Jedi, because his son said he wouldn't fight him. So good. Like, obviously, I think anytime someone says hope in Star Wars, it always feels like a reference. But he was like, there may be hope for you yet. It was like that had to be, like anytime it's a hopeful thing, I didn't know how else I could possibly have said that. But anytime there's a hopeful thing or a new beginning for something in Star Wars, they throw hope in there somehow. So that was definitely on the nose, where it was like, there's hope for you yet. It's like, oh, a renewed hope, not new hope, but renewed hope. So that was definitely cool. All of it was absolutely amazing. I mean, the change in costume was just wild. I just thought it was so good, especially when they did it in the flashbacks, because it was him during Clone Wars, and then obviously during the Siege of Mandalore, that's when episode 3 was happening, so he had to change costume too. And I was like, I think it makes sense, but at the same time, like, he's a spirit, so I was like, I wasn't thinking about it. I thought he was just be clone armor again, but it was like, no, he transitioned into the look that he would have had during that time. And it was super cool. And the fact that they even fought was super freaking cool. It was like, this is absolutely amazing. So I loved everything they did with that. Obviously, all the versions of Anakin, all the versions of Ahsoka that we got to see, that was super cool. Her learning her lesson and realizing she has something to fight for. It's not, war isn't just there to just for war's sake. Like, something's happening, there's a change that can be made, but you have to figure out how to make it. You have to fight to do it. It's like, either you fight because you want to live, or you're done now. So like, are you so depressed that it's over, or are you going to fight through it? And she fought through it, and now we have Ahsoka back. We have jokey, happier Ahsoka, because she's realized everything that made her good enough to be the character she was at the end of Rebels, where she decided, hey, I think I can take on an apprentice. She's ready now. Sabine had her moment, she had to get gut checked for it, but she had her moment, and she was like, all right, I'm ready to practice. And then Ahsoka needed to get to her point where she realizes, oh, all right, this is where I need to be. Sabine got herself back, Ahsoka had to get herself back. So now they're both where they were in their prime, so to speak, at the end of Rebels, where they first started teaming up before things kind of fell apart. They're both ready, so when they reconnect, it's gonna be crazy, and I'm very excited for that. But the costume, we have to talk about it, because this has got, I think it's my favorite Ahsoka costume. It has to be my number one. I always liked her costume from Clone Wars. I thought that was really cool. The finale one I thought was pretty sweet. She has, I think technically the outfit they show when she had the one lightsaber in this episode is the same as the one I'm thinking of. It's like on the cover of a book. It's the same design, but I think she's older in that one, so she just looks taller. But it's like basically the same costume, it's just like a bit darker, I think. And I always like that, because I like the crazy like diamond patterns that made no sense, but I was like, they look cool. It's a cool, like visually it's just like, yeah, that's a cool striking design for a character, so it always stood out. So I was like, okay, like the costumes are cool. I've always enjoyed them for sure. But this was the one. I love her samurai look, because I'm a samurai fan. So I love when she showed up in The Mandalorian, and she was, it was full on samurai episode. She has like the baggy pants. She has tabi, which are like the things where your big toe sticks out. That's called it's a tabi. So she had that samurai. She had the, she was the wandering Ronin. That's what she was at the time. That was her journey in the samurai epic. So she was just a Ronin, kind of going around. She was in a gray outfit, full samurai mode. It was very cool. And now she's gone from like the Ronin, she's found her purpose again, and she's become like the full-on samurai that she once was. And the outfit is insane. She has like straight up samurai like gauntlets on, which is sick. And then I was like, the cloak looks good, because it's better than the cloak that she had, because that was just a big cloak that she wore. This looked like an actual like fitted thing. Like she went to a store and was like, yeah, I want the one with the buttons that like drapes right here. So I was like, that's sick. And also that means that the figure they're gonna make for anyone who's in the figure collecting community, that's the one, because this outfit looks ridiculously cool. Like, I liked her samurai outfit, and typically I'm more of like a dark color person versus light color, but I don't know, this one beats it. Like this light color look for her beats the the dark blue gray look. So I was like, all right, this is pretty sick. So I love the costume, and that's definitely going to be coming out in probably is going to take like them 2 years to make that effing figure, but I'm sure they'll announce that figure. Anyone who is not in the 1/6 scale collecting community, just look up Hot Toys Ahsoka and you'll see. They put out a figure for Sabine recently, like it just officially got announced. That figure looks absolutely amazing. And now we're gonna have her, and we're gonna have Ahsoka in her super epic new white samurai outfit. It's ridiculous. The costume looks sick. So she got her like anime time skip costume change. I was super happy with that. She went through the moment. This is for everyone who is not really big on like the samurai aesthetic and style of the series. When she fell off that cliff, I was like, okay, I knew she was gonna fall off the cliff like as soon as the cliff was shown, basically, because I was like, this is the part in like the old samurai movie where the main character gets defeated and then they fall in a river and then they just like wash up somewhere, and then like an old couple finds them, and then that's where they rest for 3 days. If you watch anime, you've seen this happen as well. But the character gets beat, and then they're in like the random village for like 3 episodes, and then they realize who they really are, and then they go back to the main story, and it's like, oh, this is the dude. That's what she did. It was just Star Wars version. So she went to a world between worlds and, you know, dealt with her own master and had flashbacks. But that's what it was. Samurai wise, anime wise, these were like the 3 episodes after you get beat, and then you got to come back as like the epic version of you. So that's what she did. And now we got the epic costume change, and we also have funny Ahsoka back, because her being hopeful at the end, which it's funny, I didn't notice it too much. I noticed that obviously, you know, she was acting differently than she had been before, but big time skip, just even how things had been, it was like, you know, she's a lot more stoic. She's older, they've gone through more stuff, and with how crazy things have been, it got to her. It changed her, you know, who she really was. And so a lot of people have said the show is like, she's not as funny and quippy. It didn't bother me. I just was enjoying the story as it was going along. But I'm curious how people feel now, where it's like, oh, we were meant to be like, why is she like this? What's wrong with her? Like, the people that were worried about it, you know, that felt all those things, are they feeling justified? Or is it just like, I would have rather she just been this way the whole time? Because from a story perspective, that's kind of sick. Like you have to build back up, because you're just like, oh, you feel different, and you have to build back up to that classic version of the character that you had. I've been so enamored in just watching the darker side of them that I've never had an issue with it, because I'm like, this is really interesting. Just seeing them, you know, I knew for a fact, like it was very obvious she hadn't worked through her issues yet. You could tell that was how things had been. And they were definitely getting better at it, but you could tell like Sabine has already been back. Ahsoka needed to come back, and so she did this episode, and I'm excited to see where they take that. And I'm very curious, definitely writing wise, I am curious how much jokier she's going to be, because she still had like her sarcastic stuff, but it was admittedly, the best way to put it is like it was a meaner sarcasm, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm excited to see how things really feel with her character, like when she's a bit more jokey, when she's, you know, more hopeful now, like, you know, hey, going anywhere is better than going nowhere, that sort of thing. So I'm excited to see what her character is about to be like going forward. I mean, it's only like three more episodes, but I'm excited for these next 3. I'm excited for everything that we're going to be seeing. But this whole episode was amazing. I didn't have my notes this time. I just enjoyed the experience, and it was really, really good. Wish we got Obi-Wan. I wish we got Darth Maul, but that's okay. Something I never thought of. I do this a lot with this series, where they talk about like lineage and all this thing, all of these things. I don't think of that when I'm watching most Star Wars stuff. And this, I mean, I assume it's the point that it's kind of bringing up so many things in this way, but it's really interesting, especially with this episode being what it was, where it was like, you know, the show itself is representing Rebels live action, and then this episode in particular was like, here's Clone Wars live action, you know, the things that you just didn't think you'd ever see. Like, I think, you know, I was like, you know, my whole thing was like, what if we get Clone Wars flashbacks? And we did. We got exactly what I was hoping we'd get, and a little bit more. We got a little bit more, because I was very happy with Rex. But the way they did it was so cool. Like her being young, I didn't even think of that. I was like, what if they just show flashbacks? I just was thinking Rosario Dawson. I didn't think they would actually like stick to it, because there is a huge technically there is a big age difference between, you know, obviously Clone Wars and now we're past Return of the Jedi, so a bit of an age gap there. But that was better than I even could have imagined. And then all the legacy stuff, I was like, huh, They had to go through and I love how they explained Kanan super quick. We got the name drop, full name too. It was like Kanan Jarrus. He said his whole name. He also did call him Kanan Jarrus. He didn't call him Caleb. That's Kanan's real name. I don't know if that'll ever come up in this. Maybe in the later season they might do that. I don't think that'll come up here. But Kanan, we'll go with Kanan. But the way they did it with Jason, where it was like, you know, well, what was going on there? Quick exposition. The boy's the son of a Jedi. Oh, okay. So there's a lineage there. Obviously, Hera is tied to Sabine. Sabine and Ahsoka are tied to each other. Obviously, these are characters that are, you know, tight knit. And now you know two of those characters. Well, I don't know. Technically speaking, I don't think people that haven't. You might not know. I don't know what people know as far as like Ezra being what he was. He's a Jedi. There you go. Spoilers. I'm trying to think of that now because I'm like, obviously I know, but I don't think they've actually said that in this show for anyone that does not know that. So Ezra is a Jedi as well. That's who they're looking for. Their friend is like a Jedi. I think they reference that somewhere in there. Maybe they did, maybe they don't. I think they did so. But I thought that was interesting legacy wise. Jason was a real pop-up surprise in the series finale Rebels for anyone who didn't watch that. So Ezra has no idea that that kid exists because no one knew that Kanan and Hera were having sex because that was like the first time they ever said they love each other. And then spoilers, that's when Kanan died. It was like the first time they ever showed that in the show where they were like, you know, I love you, was at the end, like the end of the series. And then all the epilogue stuff happens and it was like, boom, there's a kid there. And it's like, oh, they had sex. Because I'm pretty sure this was the first time they ever fully admitted it. But it was building up for like 4 seasons. And apparently right before that mission, they did some stuff and then they had a kid. Because even in the show, that was very unexpected. It was like epilogue. There's a kid right there. That's Kanan's son. Nobody saw that one coming. It was just like, yeah, they did it. Surprise. That's how he came up. So Ezra does not know that that kid's alive. So when they find Ezra, that's going to be very interesting to see how that lineage continues. So I was like, some interesting stuff there. Interesting stuff. So I absolutely love the episode. Also, his ability to hear the world between worlds. Excuse me. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if that technically shows like a crazy power scale or if that was something anyone could have done, you know, kind of in the ways of the Force, where it's like, it's just a powerful essence in the Force in general. So anyone that's even slightly connected to it would have felt that at all. But the super interesting thing is that Hera felt it. And obviously this is a theory, I don't really know, but I don't think that she was sensing it where, you know, like big part of the show with Sabine is like, you know, everyone can tap into the Force. I don't know if that was her tapping into the Force or if that was Jason basically being able to project what he's sensing. Because you can, you know, I mean, they do it in this episode with Ahsoka, where you can sense things that have happened. And even Baylan does it where it's like, you know, you can technically like mind read in Star Wars. But I don't know if I've ever seen anyone have the ability to basically project what they're sensing. Like he's sensing something else and then he's almost like a second monitor for somebody else. Like he's seeing it with his eyes and he's allowing his mom to see that too. Because I don't think that was her tapping into the Force. I think that was like his ability was that he could project what he's sensing so that people can see what he sees. And I thought that was interesting. I could obviously be wrong, but I was like, I feel like that was more tied to him being able to allow her into that space versus her just tapping into the Force. Because that felt like a big deal if Hera was just suddenly like boom and she was tapped into the Force to be able to sense that. I feel like him projecting and that being a new ability makes a bit more sense, but at the same time the Force is in all of us. But I think it was Jason projecting it. That's just my theory because it sounds way cooler. But we'd love to know your thoughts on that, because that definitely came up and I was like, I don't think that's actually her tapping into the Force. I think he's helping her and like basically boosting her, you know, maybe not midichlorians, but he's boosting her awareness of the Force, but it's still his power doing it. Obvious theory, but love to know your thoughts on that. So I love that moment. Made me think of the legacy stuff. Them ending with the Purgle was absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to see what we do next. I want to watch the episode again. I want to see the beginning. I want to see Ahsoka's new super epic costume because they were definitely showing it off and it looks sick. And I'm definitely getting that figure because I'm gonna have her and Sabine together. I missed the old version, but I was like, you know what? This new costume was just better. It's just, it looks so good. It's such a samurai looking outfit. So I'm very happy in so many ways, but absolutely love this episode. We got like 3 more to go and we're going to be in a new galaxy We got to see Zeb, so they have to come back. But new galaxy, I don't know what to expect. I mean, Thrawn obviously is going to be in there somewhere, so I would love it if, well, this is one of the crazy things. They mentioned that Ahsoka was out for like a day, and I was like, okay, so she's been gone for a day. But I'm like, I mean, technically that still counts in hours, even though they jump galaxies, that still counts as a day. But at the same time, the effects could still be like, I mean, they could literally make up like anything when it comes to this galaxy. The galaxy could move, they could treat it like, oh, time moves differently when you're here or there. They could do that if they want to get extra wild with it. Like that galaxy moves at like a different speed. I don't think they'll go, that's almost like multiverse type stuff to me. But it still could, you could say a day there is like, you know, who knows how much time has passed, the way they travel, and, you know, I mean, moving faster than light and all the, you know, all the weird sorts of time-based things. They could play around with that, where it's at least been like an extra couple of days where things have been crazy in this new galaxy. But we got a couple episodes. We're gonna find out in the very next one, and I'm just curious. And it's funny, we're going to a new galaxy, and I think I mentioned this in my last review. We're going to a new galaxy, but everything's new anyway. It's so funny, like the story element of it is such a big deal that anything I see, my mind will make a huge deal. But it could literally just be any planet in the random galaxy, because it's all just alien stuff. But the fact that it's so tied to the story, my brain is like, this alien planet totally looks more special than that last alien planet. Like my brain is already doing it, and I haven't even seen whatever random stuff they make up. The only thing that would be surprising would be if they hit whatever random spot they actually hit just so happens to have like an actual civilization, or at least old buildings of a civilization. That would be kind of cool, and it just was like abandoned planet type of deal. But no matter what, it's going to be new galaxy alien, so I'm very excited for next week's episode. I love what they did with this one. Of course, I don't know what can happen next. I don't know if we should expect any more cameos either. But I mean, not just because of the other galaxy thing. I mean, anyone, the force is everywhere. Force ghosts could pop up at any time. But I am curious if we'll see something else, even if it's not like a OG Star Wars character, even if it's someone else from Clone Wars, someone else from Rebels, something like that. I'm very curious to see if we get another cameo, even if it's, you know, something simple. But 3 more episodes. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely love this episode. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about it, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. Obviously, I really want to know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts as well. What do you guys wish we got to see? Like I said, my main thing was I really wish that we got the 2 green lightsaber sequence, and, you know, just as an added bonus, if Obi-Wan happened to be in that second one, you know, just saying, like, the Force can change what people look like. You know, that would have been nice. I know it was asking for a lot, but I would have lost it, especially if they actually got, you know, I mean, it would have to be Ewan McGregor, but that would have been crazy. It's like Ewan McGregor was just like, bam, surprise, I'm in the armor. And then if they actually did do Obi-Wan and then Darth Maul was in there too, this would be like the craziest thing I'd ever witnessed. But it was still insane, and it was still amazing. So of course, we'll love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.
You hungry? I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. You hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. Like I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Like I'm Shaggy. Man, I'm hungry. Man, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Yeah, man. You hungry? Yeah,